After eating the birthday cake my mom insisted was safe, my daughter doubled over in pain. She's pretending, my mom scoffed. Food intolerances aren't real, my dad added. I didn't say anything. We just left. The next day I made a call, which made them regret everything. The house smelled like vanilla and store-bought candles when we walked in. Balloons bobbed at the ceiling, plates clattered against the kitchen counter, and the music was that tinny, too happy kind that always sounds like it's trying to cover up tension. I held Lily's hand a little tighter than I needed to. She squeezed back just once like a secret handshake. The cake was already sitting on the table. Frosted pink, neat little rosettes piped around the edges. A perfect 7 candle waiting in the center like it had been set up for an Instagram photo shoot. Homemade, my mom said brightly, smoothing her apron and flashing a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. I nodded and smiled because that's what you're supposed to do. Because some wars aren't fought with words. They're fought with fake smiles and polite nods and paper plates. I didn't say anything about the cake at first. But when my mom cut the slices I leaned in casually and asked, "It's gluten-free, right?" She laughed like I'd said something adorable. "Of course it is. I baked it myself." She said it so confidently, so indignantly, that for a second I felt embarrassed for even asking. Lily looked up at me, her eyes wide and trusting. I nodded. "It's your birthday, sweetheart. It's okay." She took her slice and sat down carefully, adjusting the hem of her glittery pink dress, the one she picked herself that morning because she said it made her feel like a superstar princess. Her sparkly sneakers kicked a little under the table as she waited patiently for everyone else to get served. She practiced saying thank you under her breath. I heard her. "I wish I could tell you I had a bad feeling. I wish I could say my blood ran cold when I saw the frosting, or that time slowed down when the knife sank into the cake. But no. It felt normal. Because that's how it always goes. The worst betrayals don't come with thunderclaps and dramatic music. They come wrapped in tissue paper and tied with a bow." We sang. Lily blew out her candle in one soft puff. She closed her eyes so tight I could see her eyelashes tremble. She made a wish. I don't know what it was. Maybe something simple. Maybe something about this year being better than the last. She smiled when she took her first bite. A real smile. Not polite, not forced. A happy, relieved little smile like maybe, just maybe, the day was going to be okay. 20 minutes later she tugged on my sleeve and whispered that she needed the bathroom. Her face was pale. Her little hands were shaking. I helped her down the hall, past the laughter, past the smell of lasagna and wax candles melting into frosting. She tried to walk on her own but halfway there she just stopped, pressed a hand to her stomach and looked up at me with wide, glassy eyes. "If you don't know much about gluten intolerance, let me explain real quick. Lily doesn't have celiac disease. She's not going to die from a single crumb of bread. But she does have what's called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and it's real. Real enough that one bite of the wrong thing means hours, sometimes days, of agony. Cramps that feel like someone is tying knots inside her. Nausea. Bloating that makes her feel like her skin is stretched too tight. Headaches that make it hurt just to move. She's only 7 but she's already gotten good at hiding it, because she's seen the jokes online, heard the adults laugh about fake allergies, been told once quietly that she was just being difficult. She doesn't like being different. She doesn't like being the gluten kid. Most of the time she keeps the pain to herself. So when Lily says it hurts, when she asks for help, it's already bad. We made it to the bathroom. I helped her sit down on the floor, pulled her dress carefully out of the way so she wouldn't sit on it. She clutched her stomach and started to cry, quiet at first, then harder, like she was trying to apologize with every breath she took. "My tummy hurts, Mommy," she whispered. "It really hurts." I brushed her hair back from her face. Told her it was okay. Told her she wasn't doing anything wrong. Told her I had her no matter what. I don't know how long we stayed there. Long enough for the party noise to start sounding muffled and far away. Long enough for her breathing to slow down even if the pain didn't. When we finally came out, Lily clinging to my side, her face blotchy and red, the laughter was already in full swing. "She's pretending," my mom called from the kitchen, waving her wine glass like she was starting a parade. "Kids today are so soft," my dad said loud enough that 2 of the cousins giggled. My sister, sorry Kara, smirked and added, "Probably just wants attention. It's her birthday after all." Lily flinched so hard I felt it through my own bones. I tucked her tighter against me. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because that was when I saw it. The trash can by the counter. The lid was half open, just enough for me to see the crumpled edge of a bakery box peeking out. Not a homemade cake. Not even close. I moved closer. No one noticed. They were too busy laughing, filling plates, tossing napkins. The box was from a local store. One I knew didn't carry gluten-free cakes unless you special ordered weeks in advance. And even then they labeled it. Big gold sticker, gluten-free. This box. No sticker. No label. Just the regular standard bakery cake. Loaded with flour. I felt it then. Not rage. Not yet. Something colder. Something heavier. I pulled out my phone. Snapped a photo of the box. Snapped a photo of the cake half eaten on the table. Snapped a photo of the stupid sign Mom had taped to the counter that said, "Homemade with love." It wasn't love. It was betrayal frosted in pink. I knelt down to Lily's level. She was trying so hard not to cry again. Trying so hard not to ruin anything. "You did nothing wrong," I whispered. She nodded, a tiny miserable movement. "We're going home, sweetheart," I said louder now. Clear enough for everyone to hear. My mom frowned. My dad opened his mouth like he might say something but thought better of it. Kara rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might sprain something. We didn't wait for anyone to stop us. We didn't wait for apologies that wouldn't come. We walked out, me carrying the weight of my daughter's pain, my own fury tucked neatly under my ribs like a second spine. I wish I could tell you someone ran after us. I wish I could tell you someone called. But the truth? They laughed and went back to eating. And somewhere between the bathroom and the front door I realized something. I wasn't going to let them laugh ever again. Not at Lily. Not at me. Not ever. You don't just wake up one day and realize your parents don't care about you. It creeps in. Like water under a door. Small enough at first that you think it's your imagination. Maybe they were tired. Maybe you were dramatic. Maybe if you just tried harder you'd be easier to love. I grew up thinking that way. 1,000 little cuts, each one small enough to explain away. Until the day you realize you're bleeding out. I used to get these migraines when I was Lily's age. Bad ones. The kind that made the world tilt sideways and the lights burn behind my eyes. I'd curl up on the couch with a cold cloth over my forehead, trying not to breathe too loud. My mom would roll her eyes, sigh heavily and say things like, "Another one? Must be nice to take a vacation every time you have a little headache." My dad called it playing sick. Said I needed to toughen up. Said I was too sensitive, like it was a failing. Like it was a stain I couldn't wash off. The worst part, sometimes I believed them. By the time I was a teenager I stopped telling them when something hurt. Twisted ankles. Stomach cramps. I'd ice it in my room and limp in silence. Because what was the point? Pain was weakness. Weakness was embarrassing. You learn early what your family values. In ours it wasn't kindness. It was endurance. Pretend you're fine no matter what it costs you. When Lily was diagnosed with gluten intolerance last year, I promised myself I wouldn't do that to her. I promised myself I'd listen. Believe her when she said she hurt. Make space for her pain even if it made things harder, even if it made things awkward. Especially then. And for the most part I kept that promise. But it's funny how old habits die harder when you're standing in the middle of the battlefield you grew up on. It's funny how easy it is to believe the lie that maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd changed. Maybe they would show up for her in a way they never showed up for me. They hadn't changed. I just got better at lying to myself. I saw it in the little things leading up to the party. The way my mom huffed when I sent a reminder about Lily's diet. The way my sister, Kara, rolled her eyes when I mentioned bringing safe snacks. The way Dad muttered under his breath about everyone being allergic to everything these days. The way they joked last Christmas about surprise gluten bombs when they served appetizers. I laughed it off then. Told myself it was harmless. Told myself they were just being old-fashioned. Told myself a lot of things that weren't true. If you're wondering why someone would lie about making a gluten-free cake, I'll tell you. It's pride. It's power. It's the quiet, bitter refusal to believe that anything outside their experience could be real. They didn't just doubt Lily's pain. They hated the idea that her needs demanded anything of them at all. Even something as small as switching flour. Especially something that small. Because small things don't cost much. Which means if you refuse to do them, it's not because you can't. It's because you won't. I'm not saying they woke up that morning and thought, let's hurt Lily today. It's worse than that. They didn't think about her at all. After we left the party, I sat with Lily in her room. She was curled up in bed, knees tucked under her chin, her sparkly sneakers abandoned in the hallway like they couldn't bear to witness the rest of the day. I brought her a heating pad, tucked her in gently, sat on the floor by her bed. Do you think I did something wrong? She whispered. My throat tightened. No, sweetheart, I said. You did everything right. She nodded, but I could see she didn't fully believe me. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. People talk about kids being resilient. I think they confuse resilience with silence. They think if a kid keeps smiling, keeps showing up, keeps laughing at the right moments, it means they're fine. But sometimes it just means they learned it doesn't matter if they're not. I made myself a cup of tea that night, sat at the kitchen table with the house dark around me, listening to the soft hum of the fridge and the even softer sound of Lily breathing down the hall. I thought about all the times my parents dismissed me, all the jokes they made at my expense, all the birthdays where the cake wasn't quite right and the gifts were just a little bit cruel and the smiles were just a little bit too sharp. I thought about how small I made myself year after year trying to be easier to love. And I thought about Lily. Her sparkly dress. Her careful little, thank you. Her brave smile even when her stomach was tying itself into knots. She deserved better. When the texts started coming in from my mom the next morning. Hope you're feeling better. Let's not make a big deal out of nothing. She's a tough girl, she'll bounce back. I didn't respond. Not yet. When Kara chimed in, you're so dramatic. It was one slice of cake. It's not like we poisoned her. I didn't respond either. Because for the first time in a long time I wasn't confused. I wasn't doubting myself. I wasn't wondering if maybe I was being too sensitive. For the first time I saw them clearly. And I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain basic human decency to people who had spent their lives mocking it. I was going to protect my daughter. Without apologies. Without guilt. Without another wasted second pretending they deserved us. You don't walk away from people like that by accident. You walk away because you've finally been pushed hard enough to see the cliff you've been standing on all along. After we got home, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. The pictures were all there, glowing coldly in the light. The bakery box in the trash. The half-eaten cake with no gluten-free label. The texts where I warned them, begged them, made myself small and reasonable and polite. The jokes they made afterward about how a little flour never killed anybody. Proof. Not enough to undo what they did, but enough to make sure they didn't get to pretend it didn't happen. I told Mark I was going to call the police. He didn't argue. He just said, I'll stay with Lily, and went back to sitting beside her, brushing her hair back with that steady patience I used to think only saints had. I called the non-emergency line. Told the woman on the other end that I needed to report intentional harm to a child. Explained everything. The allergy warnings. The medical diagnosis. The documented proof that they knew, and served the cake anyway. They transferred me to a family services officer. He listened carefully, interrupting only to ask clear, pointed questions. Was Lily medically diagnosed? Yes. Official paperwork from her pediatrician. Did the family know? Yes. Texts and conversations proving it. Was there proof they deliberately ignored it? Yes. Photos. Screenshots. Voicemails. He was quiet for a second after I finished. Finally he said, we can file a report. It puts the incident on record. It's not a criminal charge. Not unless further investigation finds clear evidence of reckless harm or a pattern. But it will stay documented. It will be there if you ever need it again. He didn't say it like it was a small thing. He said it like it was a weapon. And for once in my life I didn't put it down. I sent him everything. Every photo. Every text. Every scrap of proof they never thought I'd be brave enough to collect. When I hung up, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like someone who had stopped stitching up wounds just to bleed slower. I was done bleeding for them. The first text came 10 minutes later. You called the police? Over a birthday party. Thinker. You need to stop before you ruin everything. Families have disagreements. Normal people don't call the cops over cake. And Dad, predictably worse. Hope you're ready to raise that girl alone when Mark gets tired of your drama. There was The knife slid in where they always knew it would hurt. Not just attacking me. Attacking Lily's home. Attacking my marriage. Because they didn't just want me obedient. They wanted me scared. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words. Because no words would make them hear what they refused to see. I sat down and started making a list instead. Not a list of enemies. A list of people who still knew how to love. People Lily deserved to be surrounded by. People who would never laugh at her pain. The second birthday party wasn't going to be fancy. It wasn't going to have matching balloon arches or Instagram perfect dessert tables. It was going to have something better. It was going to have safety. I texted Mia first, Lily's godmother, and within minutes she was sending screenshots of picnic shelters available for rent. I texted Lily's teacher next, who'd once sat with her during lunch when a substitute brought the wrong snack and Lily got sick. I texted 3 of Lily's friends' parents, the ones who always double-checked labels without being asked. Within an hour we had a guest list. A plan. A bakery order placed for gluten-free cupcakes, custom frosted with little silver stars. No one from my family was invited. Not one. And I didn't feel guilty. Not even for a second. Because you don't invite people who light matches just to watch you scramble to put out the fire. That evening the phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was tight, furious but coated in fake sweetness. Erin, honey, think about what you're doing. Lily needs her family. She needs a village. Don't let your pride ruin her chance to grow up surrounded by people who love her. I sat there listening to the words fizz like acid in the air. They had called mocking a sick child love? They had called lying to her love? Love isn't pretending someone's pain isn't real. Love isn't laughing when someone you're supposed to protect is curled up crying on a bathroom floor. Love isn't a performance. It's a promise. I thought about calling her back. Not to argue. Just to say very calmly, if you loved her you wouldn't have poisoned her to prove a point. But then I realized something better. They didn't deserve even that much energy. I blocked the number instead. Blocked Kara. Blocked Dad. I wasn't going to explain basic decency to grown adults anymore. I wasn't going to write essays begging for basic humanity. They knew. They just didn't care. The next morning, the police officer emailed me the confirmation that the report had been filed. No criminal charges, not yet. But it was there. Documented. Visual. Undeniable. I printed it out. Put it in a folder. Tucked it into the lockbox where we kept birth certificates and immunization records and Lily's first hospital bracelet. Proof that we mattered. Proof that someone had listened. Proof that this time the damage they did wouldn't just vanish like it never happened. At dinner Lily was still quiet. Mark made spaghetti, gluten-free pasta, her favorite, and we ate in the soft clink of forks and the low murmur of the dishwasher running. Afterward, Lily climbed into my lap and pressed her cheek to my chest. Is it bad to want a different family? She asked. I kissed the top of her head. No, sweetheart, I said. It's brave. We finalized the plans for her second birthday that night. No speeches. No big surprises. Just cupcakes, bubbles, a park full of laughter that didn't come with sharp edges. And Lily shining, fierce, free, exactly the way she deserved to be. You think the worst part is the moment you realize your family would rather hurt your child than admit they were wrong. But it's not. The worst part is what happens after. When they try to twist it, rewrite it, claw their way back into your life like they're entitled to it. The betrayal was sharp. But the aftermath? It was slow. Rotten. It started with silence. A few days of it. No calls. No texts. Just enough time for me to almost let my guard down. Then came the email. From Kara. Subject line, for Lily's sake. I've forgiven your overreaction. I think it's time we all move on. Let's put this behind us. Lily deserves her family. Forgiven. Like she hadn't been the one who laughed while my daughter sobbed on a bathroom floor. Like I was the one who needed to apologize. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words. Because I'd already said everything that needed to be said the day I filed that report. Then Mom sent flowers. A huge bouquet. Pink lilies and white roses. A card that said, "We love you both. Let's not let one misunderstanding erase a lifetime of love." I stared at the flowers for a long time before tossing them straight in the trash. Because here's the thing about a lifetime of love. If it was real, it wouldn't take one cake to destroy it. If it can be erased by a single moment of truth, It was never love at all. They escalated after that. Phone calls from blocked numbers. Voicemails. Emails from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. My aunt called to tell me mom was beside herself. My cousin sent me a Facebook message asking if I was okay mentally. Kara posted something vague but pointed online about people who turn kids against family for attention. They couldn't control me, so they tried to control the story. And then they crossed the line. It was a Tuesday. Lily's school called me around 2:30, an hour before pickup. The front office secretary was calm, but I could hear the tension behind her words. "Hi, Mrs. Palmer. I just wanted to check. Did you send Lily's grandparents to pick her up today? They're here and said they had your permission." My heart stopped. "No," I said, standing up so fast I knocked my chair over. "Absolutely not. Do not release her to them." The woman was already ahead of me. "We've kept her in the classroom. They haven't seen her yet. But we'll be documenting this, and I recommend contacting the authorities." I was already dialing the police. Let me be clear. They didn't just cross a boundary. They violated it. They showed up at her school. Tried to take her. Tried to bypass me like they still had any claim over her, any trust, any rights. When the officer arrived at the school, I was already there. Mark too, he'd left work the second I called. Lily was safe. Taken but safe. She hadn't seen them. And thank God for that. The officer took our statements. Contacted the school to confirm the timeline. Told me, calmly, professionally, that this would now escalate to a formal no-contact order being placed on file. Not just a report. An official civil protection filing. Not jail. Not handcuffs. But a line they couldn't cross again without consequences. And for once they'd have to live with someone else drawing the boundaries. They tried again 2 days later. This time, dropping off a box of toys and old family photos on our porch. Lily found it. Opened the lid and stared at a picture of herself as a toddler sitting in my mom's lap. She asked, "Do I have to love them if I don't feel like it anymore?" I sat beside her and said, "No, baby." She nodded and closed the box. Didn't ask again. The second birthday party came that weekend. The weather was cool and bright. The park was full of kids running through the grass, giggling over cupcakes, waving bubble wands that caught the light like floating stars. Lily wore her sparkly dress again. The same one. The one from that party. But this time she wore it without flinching. She danced. She laughed. She didn't clutch her stomach or try to hide when someone offered her food, because everything had been carefully checked twice and made with love, not ego. She was safe. Fully. Finally. A few other parents asked quietly later if everything was okay. They'd heard rumors. Nothing concrete. Someone's mom had mentioned a family fallout. Someone else heard I'd called the police on my own mother. I didn't explain. Didn't defend. Just said, we had to do what was best for Lily. And they nodded. Because the people who matter. They get it. The last escalation came in the form of a letter. Typed. Mailed. No return address, but I recognized my dad's phrasing. "You made this choice. We won't forget it. We hope Lily grows up to realize who really loved her. Families are forever. You can't change that." I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I didn't even keep the letter. I shredded it, made tea, and watched my daughter build a pillow fort in the living room with her dad. And I realized something simple. Families aren't forever. Not the kind you're born into. Only the kind you choose. The next morning I put in a formal request with the school and daycare. No pickups allowed except for me and Mark. No exceptions. No changes without in-person confirmation and ID. I updated emergency contacts. Tightened every lock. Not because I was afraid. Because I was done letting people slip through the cracks of my kindness. They can keep their version of the story. They can paint me as ungrateful, dramatic, vindictive. But the truth? I gave them every chance. And they threw it away. One bite of cake at a time. One insult. One laugh. One deliberate betrayal. I didn't burn the bridge. They buried it under every time they told me pain wasn't real. Now they can live on the other side of it. Maybe you think I overreacted. Maybe you think I should have let it go. That it was just a cake. Just one bad moment. Just a misunderstanding. Maybe you're right. Or maybe you've never had to look your child in the eye and explain why the people who say they love her keep hurting her. I didn't go into this hoping for drama. I didn't want to cut ties or file reports or change school policies. But when someone shows you, over and over, that their pride matters more than your child's safety, at some point you stop hoping they'll change. You change instead. You protect your kid, even if it costs you the last shred of family you thought you had. But I want to hear from you. Do you think I went too far? Would you have handled it differently? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the story, subscribe for more.